Good evening. This isn't going to be a long live stream at all. Maybe 5 minutes. Just realized I haven't checked in with my YouTube channel listeners in quite some time. Been busy with my mastermind group with the Seduction and Frame stuff that we've been working on. If it's something you're interested in being a part of, there is a link in the description if you want to check that out. But today I just want to give you some quick little tips here on how to help your picking up on the girls. Just a little mental framework that I want you to think about. What I want you to think about is the role that you're playing when you are talking to a woman, seducing a woman, getting her interested, curious about you, and moving her into maybe a location change and some more conversation, or perhaps an exchange of contact info, and then moving, of course, into date and seduction and sex and continued dates and all that good stuff. I want you to think about the role again that you're playing. Okay. So everyone's playing a role. When you go out someplace, you're in role, they're in role. It's how we operate as social animals. And there's several layers here between the role you're playing, at least a few layers anyway, between the role you're playing and who you actually are, your identity. Okay. And so you have who you are, your identity. Okay. And then you have from there, from your identity, you have your archetype. So what's your archetype? Hi, John. you're not You're not helping with that. I don't know if that helps me my case too much. Fellow psychopath. It's funny. Anyway, so you have your role that you're playing. There's an archetype, and there's who you are, your identity. Okay, so think of it like 3 layers. And when I say archetype, what do I mean? Well, the archetype is how other people generally see you in that particular environment. All right. So, like, maybe you're the gym guy, right? The meathead. Or maybe you're the intellectual, smart guy. Or maybe you're the comedian in your friend group. You get what I mean. Okay. There's an archetype. There's just people see you a certain way. It's not completely who you are, your identity, but it's a reflection of who you are. It's what you extend outward. And so in my Seduction and Frame mastermind guys, they go through a series of activities where they're really analyzing and being intentional about their identity and who they are. And then they're developing their seductive archetype from there. Okay. The guy that women are going to want to hook up with, but how that's being presented to the world. Because most of you guys listening and who listen to this stuff, you're not very aware of how the world perceives you. That you're not very aware that what you're doing, what you dress like, how you sound, the things you talk about, just the way you present, that leaves an impression on other people, and you're not always aware of what that impression is. And you think that you're being yourself, but you're really not being yourself. You're being a version of you that is interacting with the outside world. Okay. So that's very different than being actually yourself. Most people, in fact, I would say probably no person is fully comfortable being their authentic self, except for around very, very trusted other individuals. And that's for those of you who actually know who that is. So a really interesting exercise is to explore, like, who is this? Because a lot of people are not aware of who they actually are. They're operating on a set of programming. Okay. They're operating on the way they've been conditioned, habits, behaviors, things they haven't actually self-reflected and analyzed. So the identity part's already a thing that you guys need to find. And when you guys can find that, embrace it, and make a decision as to how you want to be and to be that alpha version of yourself and that version of yourself that's successful and attractive to women, that's going to change everything. And that's your inner game part, right? Got a whole mindset course on that. All right. So there's stuff to work on that. But then from there, you look at, well, how am I being perceived by the outside world? And then that's what you sort of present in general as your archetype. Now, from there, you're going to be interacting with a chick, all right? A new girl at some point. Maybe it's through Tinder, or maybe it's in person and you meet her at the bar, or maybe it's at a work function, or maybe her friend introduced you, a friend of a friend or somebody introduced you to somebody. You get the idea. And so now you're interested in potentially seducing this person. And I say potentially because it's a discovery process. You have to learn about her a bit and make sure she's a good candidate, right? But you go through that process of seduction, which involves, of course, deciding if she's a good candidate to go to the next step, whether that's one-on-one hangout meeting, her coming over, whether that's the bedroom, whether that's another second or third or fifth date. You get the idea. And so you are now in role. Okay. Now, if you're at a work function, she sees all the guys at that work function in a particular role. That role might be coworker, right? And to be real general, if she's in, let's say, a grocery store, she sees the men in the grocery store in a role that's not necessarily in a seductive role, maybe just dudes at the grocery store, right? And so on and so forth. You have to be in the role of the person that she would sleep with. Okay. And so that could happen anywhere, anytime. And why do I say that? Because a woman is always susceptible to sleeping with and having sex with a man, right? Always. She is a genetic, specimen that reproduces. Okay. We're all reproductive creatures at the end of the day. So in the right set of conditions, we are susceptible of being attracted to somebody and moving down the process of ending up in the bedroom. And that's really all seduction is, whether it turns out to be, conventional, traditional, religiously based marriage, or whether it's just a one night stand or whatever it is, it's you ending up in the bedroom with this person and continuing that, right? And you have to be seen as the person in role that they would want to be in the bedroom with. It's really that simple. And so by having this understanding, it allows you just to ask yourself or analyze a little bit, how does this person see me right now? And then how can I alter that perception through my approach, behavior, tonality, tone of voice, appearance, body language, word choice, alter that perception from wherever she sees me to guys she would sleep with? Or does she already see me as guys she would sleep with? Because there's an immediate attraction. And then my job is to remove any objections, move it along by being in the role that she sees me in already, and then ending up in the bedroom. So it just allows you, this mental framework allows you to just ask yourself some of the right questions about how does this chick see me right now? And in what should I do in terms of behaviors, which includes word choice and everything else, to get her to either continue to see me as the guy she wants to bang, or to see me as the guy she wants to bang from a previous conception. Now, when you understand that and really grasp that, that can direct your game and make things a lot easier for you. All right. So hopefully that makes sense. I mean, because and by the way, let's give a few quick examples. Then I actually have to run to a consult session. I'm doing in a different time because of time zone constraints and stuff like that for this individual. But you're at a work, let's say you're at a work function and you're really interested in getting with this particular chick. She's in a different department. It's not too dangerous. Let's just take the danger out of it. Let's assume it's not too dangerous for you two to hook up to your job or whatever, right? And so you're interested in that. Well, she's at this work function and she sort of sees the men there and people there at, maybe it's just a meeting or something. She sees them as work dudes, right? So there's a way that you're going to approach, initiate, and interact with her where she sees you as not just a work dude. She sees you as different. You have to stand out from the rest of the work dudes. So maybe it's something little unique about your dress or appearance. Now, if you get to the gym regularly, most people are out of shape. So you already appear more likely and for her to want to sleep with. You see what I mean? So some of the stuff is real simple. Maybe everybody else dresses like a dork in your office and you decide to dress a lot better than that. That could be simple too, right? Some of these little things. But you'll have to send a message to her that you are outside of the role that she would assume or place you in. And that makes her curious. And that curiosity then stems a little bit of investment from her to want to learn more. And then if she's wondering about you in a seductive sense, because that's the message or image or role you're playing, then she starts to get into a bit of a fantasy too, wondering what it'd be like to be with you, wondering if you're going to ask her out, wondering these things. And this curiosity and fantasy and investment where she spends time, energy, effort communicating and thinking about you and possibly even doing something for you or in your direction, that's where attraction and desire is built. Okay. So you have to step outside of the role as work person. Maybe it's taking a little interest in her. Hey, that meeting sucked. What's up? How are you? All right. But other guys also try to talk to her and they come across as dorks. So are you going to come across as different? Maybe you're excessively dominant, and you just come up to her and be like, yeah, that sucked. Hey, come with me. Let's go grab a coffee downstairs. Right? Something simple like that. And it's like, oh shit, he's just pulling me out and getting coffee with me. Sometimes just that dominance might be the thing. You know what I mean? It could be any number of things, but it's not this big, elaborate pickup technique, or line or process. Sometimes it's just something very subtle because you have to look at the needs, of course, of the environment. So I'm going to give you some closing thoughts on this because we'll expand on this more. These are the types of things that we get really involved with in the mastermind group, right? But you have your archetype, your seductive archetype, okay? And the role that you are going to play based on your wants and needs, all right? You have her particular perception of what the role is of guys she would sleep with. So in her mind, there's certain characteristics of the guys she would sleep with. And those things are social and subtle. All right. I don't mean, okay, she usually sleeps with guys with beards. So you have a beard. So now she's going to sleep with you. It's not this math problem that you guys try to do. Okay. It's going to be things like how she feels around you and tone and things you might talk about, and whether or not you make her laugh, and some of these other things. Now, sure, there's a certain look or a type that's easy to fit. If there's a type that she likes and you fit that type, cool. But you can fit the type of guy that she would sleep with by not fitting that type too, just by seducing. And so anyways, she has this idea. You have your role, your idea, that role being guy she would sleep with. And then picture like a Venn diagram. You got the environments you're in. So if it's work, there's a certain type of way that you're going to have to interact with her that's work safe, right? For the environment. Versus, let's say you meet her at a bar, all right? Now you can be a little bit more direct and a little bit more less professional, we'll say, than what you'd be at work. And so you, her, and the environment you're in, that all has to intersect and work together. And it works together to supply her with the image of you being in the role of the guy she would sleep with. And your word selection, body language, interaction, approach, your level of attention or lack of attention, okay, your word choice, topic choice, how you choose to close, everything else should stem from that. You're just the guy she would sleep with for now. Now, of course, as you guys go along and have, happy relationship, all that stuff, you step outside of the role and she starts seeing you as more the archetype, and you step outside of that archetype and she starts seeing you for who you are, because you selected her and you've really, opened yourself up to let her see you. And that's really important. If you're going to be with this person for any length of time, you want her to see who you are. And that's what's really important too, then, to mention, is that the role that you're playing needs to be congruent with the archetype that you're presenting, and needs to be congruent with who you are, your identity, your authentic self. Where guys make a mistake in pickup is that they're learning how to LARP, or live action role play, a type of guy, or play a role based on lines and, techniques that they're learning from some teacher or instructor or some course. And so they're getting out there and they're basically play acting an attractive guy, but they're not congruent with who they really are. You have some pickup coaches that will teach that, like saying you're a DJ, or like, saying you're oh yeah, like I own this thing, or I do this thing that you don't really do. You see what I mean? And so that's not something I recommend, because even if it's just a one night stand, your reputation matters. And so you don't have to present everything that you are to a stranger, but you want your role, your archetype, and your identity to be congruent. Girls will sleep with you when you play the role, regardless of your identity. If you're living in your car, okay, you probably need to be worrying about something else other than girls. But if you're living in your car, you can actually still get laid without, being incongruent to a guy who's struggling financially and lives in his car. Really happens all the time. Okay. And so you just have to be and play that role. And that role that you're playing has to be congruent with who you are, congruent with her image of what she would sleep with, and be fitting for the environment you're in. So it's not so out of turn for the environment that she's, thrown off and turned off in a bad way. And then you're in, and that's it. So that's a framework for you. So just something for you to think about. All right. Yeah, man. Thanks a lot. I appreciate the super chat. Well, I'm a little late for my appointment, so I'm going to head off to it. Just some concepts, it wasn't super like brass tacks, say this thing, here's how you respond to this text, or whatever those real specific things, but just something for you to think about. I haven't been on the channel for a little bit, so I just thought I would toss that out there for you guys, this little concept. because you really want to be able to get your inner game together and then construct from that point who you are and the perceptions that people have of you. And it's good. That's how you can really make sure that you're self aware and that you're socially calibrated for the situations that you're in, and be really intentional about your interactions with others and getting the results that you want with those interactions. All right. So that's it. You guys have a great night, and maybe I'll pop in tomorrow. Take care.